Born in darkness, raised in fire, living in faith, welcome to Soft Girl Era, the sacred pause Black women have been waiting for. I'm your host, LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dolce, like sweet softness whispered in French. I'm your guide from burnout to boundaries, from doing to being, from strong to soft, and loving every second of it. Today, I had the profound honor of sitting down with Nepheteri Johnson, a woman whose life and work are reshaping how we understand faith, trauma, and the radical act of choosing yourself. Nepheteri is making the world a better place by teaching Black women that they can be born in darkness, raised in fire, and still choose to live in faith. Her insights are not just inspiring, they are life saving. And what she shared with me during our interview, I'm about to share with you in a way that I hope will shake something loose in your spirit. So let's get into it. Here's what I need you to hear first. You can be born in darkness, raised in fire, and still choose to live in faith. No matter how chaotic, abusive, or contradictory your beginnings are, you have the power to walk away from what harms you and consciously shape who you become. Your origin story does not get to dictate your destiny. Your choices do. Let me say that again for the people in the back who are still carrying guilt about leaving toxic family members, abusive partners, or churches that silenced their pain. Your origin story does not get to dictate your destiny. Your choices do. Nepheteri Johnson reminded me of something we forget when we're stuck in survival mode. We forget that the same people who hurt us may claim to love God, but their behavior does not define our relationship with the divine. Divine spirit source lives inside you, not in other people's approval or their version of God. Your sanity, your healing, and your power come from cultivating an internal relationship with spirit, trusting your own discernment, and learning to go silent and listen for answers within. That's the first truth Nefertari shared during our interview. And honestly, it hit me like a brick wrapped in a prayer cloth. Because how many of us have been taught that faith means enduring? That being a good Christian woman, a good daughter, a good employee, a good wife means swallowing your pain and smiling through it? How many of us have been told that rest is lazy, that boundaries are selfish, that saying no is ungodly? Let me tell you what research is now proving. Dr. Stacy McCall Martin created a 6-week faith integrated mindfulness program called Selah and Abide, specifically for Black Christian women experiencing chronic stress. These were women who were pillars in their churches, leaders in their families, and absolutely exhausted. They were taught to pray, but never taught to rest. They were told God would provide, but never told that they were allowed to stop overworking and trust that provision. Dr. McCall Martin's program blended breath prayer, stillness, womanist theology, and Sabbath theology. It gave these women permission to practice rest as a holy act. And the results? A highly significant, very large increase in confidence applying Christian contemplative practices. Women reported feeling permission to rest without guilt. They named stress and trauma they had been carrying in silence. They began to see rest and self care as aligned with divine love, not rebellion. One woman said, I finally felt allowed to care for myself without feeling like I was sinning. That's what happens when you stop letting other people's broken theology define your relationship with God. That's what happens when you realize divine spirit source is not in the pews that shamed you, it's in you. Nepheteri Johnson's second truth is this: love yourself like your life depends on it, because your healing, your faith, and your future do. Self love is not cliche, it is survival. When you love yourself, you turn being told you're nothing into fertilizer for growth. Loving yourself allows you to transform trauma into boundaries, pain into wisdom, and faith into a new reality you can build personally, spiritually, and professionally. And I know some of you are rolling your eyes right now because self love has been turned into a hashtag and a bath bomb commercial. But let me tell you what radical self care actually looks like for Black women. There's research published by the National Institutes of Health titled I Remain as an Act of Resilience and Resistance. It examines how radical self care functions as both resilience and resistance for women of color, particularly Black women. It frames self care not as luxury, but as a spiritual, political, and psychological act. Choosing to remain, choosing to heal, choosing to grow despite trauma, oppression, and chronic stress. The research defines radical self care as embracing practices that keep women physically and psychologically healthy and fit, making consistent time to reflect on what matters, to challenge themselves to grow, and to check whether their actions align with their values. Treating self care as a disciplined, conscious practice, not indulgence, especially for those navigating trauma and oppression. This directly centers self love and inner alignment as survival tools, not cliches. Women who engage in radical self care can reduce burnout, protect their mental health, and maintain a sense of self in environments that try to erase them. Self care emerges as a faithful act, trusting that their lives, bodies, and spirits are worthy of protection and tenderness, even when outside messages say otherwise. By remaining, they resist systems that expect them to disappear, break down, or silently endure harm. So when Nepheteri Johnson says, love yourself like your life depends on it, she's not talking about bubble baths and vision boards. She's talking about the decision to stop betraying yourself. She's talking about the boundary you set with your mother who still calls you selfish. She's talking about the job you finally quit because it was killing you. She's talking about the 5 minutes of silent prayer you take every morning to stay sane. That's love. That's survival. That's faith in action. Now, let's talk about the fire. Because some of you listening right now were not just born in darkness, you were raised in fire, abuse, neglect, racism, poverty, religious systems that normalize suffering and silence. You were the strong one in your family, expected to absorb pain without recognition or support, while trying to parent, work, and love under constant pressure. And here's what nobody told you: that fire didn't just burn you, it changed you, it changed your body, it changed your nervous system, it changed the way you parent, the way you love, the way you work. There's a framework called Reclaim: resilience, epigenetics, cultural liberation, ancestry integration, and meaning making. It was developed specifically for Black women who carry generational trauma in their bodies and families, yet still choose to interrupt those patterns and redefine their identities. The framework teaches that trauma is not only emotional, it shows up in epigenetic changes, stress written into the body that affect health, mood, and family dynamics. But here's the hope: those patterns can be interrupted. You can break cycles. You can identify how abuse, neglect, and emotional silence have been passed down, and you can consciously respond differently. The Reclaim framework moves care beyond symptom management into transforming relationship patterns and meaning making. It allows women to define themselves outside of trauma, religious guilt, or family scapegoating. One researcher said it this way: Black women are often praised for strength while their pain remains hidden. The strong Black woman image masks generations of fire, abuse, overwork, spiritual manipulation, and family conflict. Without acknowledging intergenerational trauma and its physical impact, Black women are asked to carry the same burdens forever. But you don't have to. Nepheteri Johnson's third truth is this: You do not have to be what the people you were born to tried to make you be. You can understand the roots of your pain and still move forward in faith, choosing new patterns for yourself and your children. That's what it means to live in faith, not blind faith, not toxic positivity, not pretending the fire didn't happen, but faith that says, I see where I came from, I honor what I survived, and I choose who I'm becoming. Faith that says, I will not repeat what was done to me. Faith that says, I will rest, even if my mother never did. Faith that says, I will set boundaries, even if my church called it rebellion. Faith that says, I will love myself, even if no one taught me how. Here's what I want you to understand: the darkness you were born into does not own you. The fire that tried to consume you does not define you. You are not the trauma. You are not the abuse. You are not the neglect. You are the woman who survived it all and is now standing at the edge of something new, something sacred, something entirely your own. And that requires a choice, a daily, intentional, non negotiable choice. So here's what I'm asking you to do: not tomorrow, not next week, today. Commit to one daily practice that honors the divine spirit source within you, not the expectations outside of you. That might be a 5-minute silent prayer to stay sane, a boundary you finally set with family, a journal page where you tell the truth about what happened, or a moment of radical rest you refuse to feel guilty about. Stop waiting for a savior. Start documenting your own story and identifying what you will no longer tolerate. Replace one act of self betrayal, overworking, people pleasing, silence with one act of self honor every single day. If you are building a career or business, design at least one system or boundary that protects your mental and spiritual health as fiercely as you protect your income. Because here's the truth Nepheteri Johnson left me with: no one is coming to save you, but you already have what you need inside to start saving yourself. You can be born in darkness, raised in fire, and still live in faith. That is not a cliche. That is a choice. That is a daily practice. That is a revolution. And if you're listening to this right now and you feel seen, if you feel unsettled, if you feel a mix of tenderness and fire, good. That means something is shifting. That means you're ready to stop lying to yourself about what you've been carrying. That means you're ready to choose differently. You are not what happened to you. You are not the darkness you were born into. You are not the fire that tried to consume you. You are the woman who walked out of both, still breathing, still believing, still building. So I'm going to leave you with this challenge. Go home today and ask yourself one question: what am I still carrying that was never mine to carry? And then, with all the courage you can gather, put it down, set it down gently if you need to, throw it down violently if that's what it takes. But put it down, because the life you're meant to live, the peace you're meant to feel, the softness you're meant to embody, it's all waiting on the other side of that release. You were born in darkness, you were raised in fire. But you, my sister, were made to live in faith. Now, go live like you believe it.